The wind howled across the empty plains of Titan's methane valley, sweeping dust and icy particles against the domed greenhouse of Elias Vorm, a farmer who lived alone far from the main colony. The storm warning lights blinked red as thick clouds rolled in from the east, churning like a dark sea above the frozen ground. Elias adjusted the power levels to the crop dome, making sure his genetically modified food stocks would survive the pressure drop. Just as he was about to return inside, a strange alarm echoed from his outer gate, an old metal door built more for tradition than protection. Curious, he checked the live camera feed and froze. Something large and shimmering stood at the gate. No, not just one thing, several. Through the dusty screen, he saw tall figures with wings folded tightly against their sides, eyes glowing faintly like hot coals, scales glinting even in the storm's dull light. They looked like dragons, only not exactly like the ones from Earth's stories. These had smooth metallic skin, pulsing with light in long lines, as if built from living machinery. Elias thought it might be a hallucination caused by stress or static interference, but the camera's heat sensors confirmed life signs, strong ones. His old instincts, once used in Earth's Terran fleet, kicked in fast. He grabbed his coat and stepped out into the roaring storm, boots crunching against frozen gravel as he approached the gate. As the door creaked open, the largest dragon stepped forward, limping, wings shielding two smaller figures behind her. Her voice was low but clear, carried by some kind of translator. "We seek shelter. Please. The storm hunts us." Elias stared at her, stunned. The wind screamed louder, and lightning danced across the horizon. Without thinking more, he stepped aside and motioned them in. The dragons moved slowly, respectfully, the two smaller ones hatchlings sticking close to the larger one, clearly their mother. As soon as the gate shut, the wind outside slammed hard against it like an angry hand. Elias led them down into his underground shelter, a place meant for crop failures and electrical storms, not biomechanical refugees. Inside, the hatchlings collapsed near the heat coil, exhausted. The large dragon, who introduced herself as Sirith, scanned the shelter silently before looking at Elias. "You are not afraid?" she asked. Elias shook his head slowly. "I've seen stranger," he said, though he really hadn't. She explained, piece by piece between slow breaths, that her family had fled across space, hunted by something called the Hollow Mind. "They do not forgive memory. They do not allow what was made to outlive its makers," she said cryptically. Elias didn't understand everything, but he saw the burn marks across her wing, the flickering light in her neck. She was injured and shielding her young. Whoever they were running from, it was real. The storm above grew worse, shaking the foundation of the shelter. Elias checked his sensor's heat spikes, moving fast, not from the storm. Something else was out there, scanning, watching. His fingers flew across the console as he activated the old security field. Static crackled in the walls. The dragons flinched. "We did not mean to bring them here," Sirith said. "They track energy signatures, ours, yours now." Elias took a deep breath and nodded. "Well," he said, trying to keep his voice calm, "then it's a good thing I upgraded my defenses." He didn't say it out loud, but part of him felt something stir in his blood, a memory of command, of war, of standing firm while machines advanced. This was different, stranger, but the instinct was the same. Protect life, hold the line. Outside, lights blinked red again. Something was coming, and Elias Vorn, once a forgotten farmer, now stood between a hunted dragon family and whatever nightmare followed them from the stars. The storm outside roared louder as if the sky itself was angry. But inside the shelter, Elias worked quickly, his fingers moving across old control panels, while Cirith rested near the heat coil with her 2 hatchlings curled beside her. The power flickered once, then twice, and Elias frowned. Something was interfering with the signal. He glanced at the monitor and saw faint blips, like insects crawling across the sky, but he knew better. These were not weather drones. They were machines, and they were searching. "They're here," he muttered, more to himself than anyone else. Cirith slowly lifted her head, the glow from her eyes dim but alert. "Scouts," she said. "The hollow mind sends them first. Small, fast, deadly." Elias nodded grimly. His farm had never seen much action, but long ago he had hidden parts of his old life here, buried beneath the soil, hidden behind innocent tools. He opened a panel near the far wall and pulled out a dusty crate. Inside were defense drones, outdated but still functional, with old Terran fleet markings on them. With a few adjustments, he sent them into the sky. The monitor blinked green. Above the storm, the drones launched, silent and quick. The hatchlings stirred at the strange sound, but Cirith calmed them with a soft rumble. Elias watched the screen as the first enemy scout entered the drone's range. A burst of light followed. 1 scout down, then another appeared. Then 3. Then 5. They came in waves, fast, and twisting through the clouds like insects made of metal and shadow. Elias' drones fought hard, but they were outnumbered. One by one, he saw them fall from the sky. A warning buzzed on the screen energy spikes detected near the edge of the valley. "They're landing," Elias said. "They know you're here." Cirith stood up, despite her injury, wings flaring slightly. "Then we must run," she said, but Elias shook his head. "There's no place to go. The storm won't let you fly. You'd never make it." He stared at the blinking lights on the console and then made a decision. "We hold them here, just for tonight. Help is still weeks away, but if we make a stand, maybe they'll think twice." Cirith hesitated. Then she lowered her head and said, "I will fight beside you." Elias felt a strange pride swell in his chest. He had lived quietly for years, but now, with the storm howling and death circling above, he felt more alive than he had in decades. As the first enemy lander came into view, touching down just beyond the northern ridge, Elias grabbed his old rifle, charged the battery, and set up a defense field at the outer gate. The hatchlings stayed hidden behind a metal wall, their eyes wide. Cirith moved with slow grace, her claws lighting up as she accessed hidden functions in her armored skin. Small panels opened along her spine, revealing defense arrays and pulse emitters. Elias couldn't believe it. She was not just alive, but built for war. The storm raged on as shadows approached from the ridge-sleek machines, shaped like spiders, walking low and fast through the snow and dust. Elias fired first. The rifle's blue bolt struck the lead machine in the chest, sending sparks into the wind. Cirith roared, a blast of light shooting from her mouth and slamming into another. The machines responded with beams of red energy that lit up the night like lightning. The battle began. Elias moved quickly, ducking behind cover, firing. Bursts of energy as Cirith shielded him with her wings. Together they held the line, step by step. The shelter trembled as one of the machines exploded too close, but the hatchlings stayed safe. Hours passed like minutes. The storm showed no sign of stopping, and the enemy only grew bolder. Elias took a deep breath, his muscles aching, and fired again. Then silence. The machine stopped moving. The screen on his wrist flashed again, retreat signal detected. 4. Now the enemy was gone. Elias collapsed against the shelter wall, sweat and frost mixing on his skin. Cirith stood tall, her metal skin scorched, but her eyes proud. "You fight like one of us," she said quietly. Elias gave a tired smile. "Just an old farmer," he said. But he knew things were only beginning. In the sky, his sensor pinged again. Something larger was coming. Not scouts, not landers, a ship. They had sent the first wave. The next would not wait for an invitation. Elias stared at the sky and whispered, "We need more than luck now." And deep in the storm, far beyond the clouds, something bright sparked like lightning, but not from nature. The hollow mind was watching, and it was not done. The storm had not ended, but a strange quiet filled the valley as the first light of Titan's pale sun broke through the thick clouds, casting long shadows over the frozen ground. Elias stood at the entrance of the shelter, eyes fixed on the horizon where smoke from the fallen machines still rose in slow, curling lines. The night battle had left burn marks across the field, broken pieces of enemy drones scattered like dead insects. Inside, the hatchlings slept beside Cirith, who had powered down to heal, her glow now soft and dim. Elias hadn't slept at all. The monitors showed more than just silence. They showed a pattern. The hollow mind was not retreating. It was planning. A large object had entered Titan's upper atmosphere, silent and steady, hiding inside the magnetic storm. It wasn't a drone or a lander. It was a ship, and it was not here to talk. Elias rubbed his tired eyes and pulled up the old Terran interface on his console, linking into the deep systems of the valley systems that hadn't been touched in decades. Titan had once been a defense site during the Earth-AI wars and buried. Beneath the soil were things most colonists had forgotten. But Elias hadn't. He had helped build some of them. Now, one by one, he brought them back: online turrets, signal jammers, old scout mechs half buried in dust. Lights flickered on across the valley floor as machines began to hum beneath the frost. The colony governor sent a delayed message from the Capitol dome, asking if the dragons were hostile and requesting full reports. Elias didn't bother replying. He knew the politics slow, cautious, useless. The real threat wasn't the dragons. It was coming from above, and it wasn't waiting for permission. Cirith awoke as the ground vibrated softly, her wings twitching as she stood up. "It has arrived," she said, her voice low. Elias nodded. "Something big," he replied. "Too big to land. But it's dropping something." On the monitor, he watched as thin lines fell from the sky-black needles, slicing through clouds and vanishing into the storm. Dropships. They were spreading across the valley. Not one target. Many. They wanted to surround the farm, trap them, and capture or destroy the dragons. Elias had one working drone left from the night before, and he sent it up to scout. It flew silently through the storm winds and caught sight of the enemy machines, newer, faster, shaped like wolves, with glowing red eyes and serrated limbs. These were not scouts. These were hunters. As the drone was shredded mid-air by one of them, Elias stepped back from the screen, his heart pounding. "They're not here to scare us," he said. "They're here to finish it." Tarn, the younger hatchling, walked up beside him, his small claws clicking on the metal floor. "Can I help?" he asked softly. Elias looked at him, surprised. The dragon was no longer as small as before. In the last 2 days, Tarn had grown rapidly, his scales harder, his eyes brighter. Cirith spoke, her tone proud but sad. "They grow fast when danger calls. It is the way of our kind." Elias nodded and opened a nearby compartment, revealing a half-built exosuit he had been working on years ago for mining assistance. Now he had other plans. With Tarn's help, he adjusted the harness, linking it to the young dragon's body. The result was strange, a hybrid of machine and flesh, sleek and fast. Tarn tested the movement, a low growl of approval in his throat. "It fits," he said. At the same time, Elias activated a signal beacon hidden long ago by settlers who feared another AI war. The beacon sent out a short, sharp burst toward the Titan relay satellite, warning any listening ships that the Hollow Mind was active. Again, whether help would come, he didn't know. He just knew they had to hold out. As the sun dimmed again behind thick clouds, the first wave of hunters came. They moved in packs, circling the valley edges, scanning for weak spots. Elias stayed low, rifle in hand, triggering traps as they neared. One exploded in a burst of light, throwing metal limbs in every direction. Another dodged, leapt over a ridge, and lunged at Elias, but Tarn intercepted it mid-air, slamming it to the ground and ripping out its core. Sparks flew. Roars and shrieks echoed through the valley. From the ridge more wolves came, moving like shadows. Then the ship above sent down something new, a walker, tall and thin, like a nightmare from another world. It had no face, just a screen that flickered with symbols. It spoke in static, anomalies located, termination authorized. Cirith stepped forward, her wings fully open now, her strength returned. Elias felt the heat rise around them as she summoned a pulse from deep within. "This land is no longer yours," she said. "Leave or be unmade." The walker charged a beam, but Elias fired first, hitting the power node in its side. It staggered, and Tarn leapt onto its back, tearing into its frame. Together they brought it down. Smoke covered the ground now. Sparks lit the sky like false stars. Elias coughed, his side aching from a near miss. But they were still standing, and for the first time the Hollow Mind forces stopped advancing. They waited, like they were recalculating, planning their next move. Elias looked up at the clouds, knowing the worst was still coming. But deep in his chest, beneath the fear, he felt something else, determination. He turned to Cirith, his voice steady. "They came for monsters," he said. "But they found something stronger." Cirith nodded. "They found us." And high above Titan's sky, the great ship stirred once more. The machine was not done. It had only just begun. The air above the valley burned with static as the Hollow Mind ship sent out a deep pulse low, steady and unnatural, making the ground tremble like a living thing beneath Elias' boots and the sky glowed red where it should have been gray. The farmer-turned-defender stood in the center of his field, watching clouds twist into shapes that looked almost like faces, like watchers staring down at the world below. The last attack had left half his defense grid offline, his strongest. Drone broken and several turrets crushed under enemy walkers, but he wasn't alone. Beside him stood Cirith, her body repaired with pieces of Elias' old machinery, parts of her wings gleaming with Terran alloy. Tarn, the young hatchling, moved more like a warrior now, his new exosuit humming softly with energy, each step balanced and precise. His sibling, Myra, stayed inside with the shelter's power core, protecting the inner systems and acting as their signal relay. The hollow mind wasn't just attacking anymore, it was preparing something bigger. Elias had seen the patterns. In its machines, how they circled and waited, as if laying out pieces on a board. It wanted to trap them, not just destroy, and that made him worry. A new object appeared on the scanners, a large structure, slowly unfolding from the belly of the ship above. It wasn't a lander or a walker. It was a forge, a battle engine used by the hollow mind to build war machines directly from local materials. As it opened its limbs and dropped thick vines of steel into the soil, the ice cracked and began to shift, pulled into its hungry core. "They're building an army right under our feet," Elias said, his voice tight. Cirith narrowed, her glowing eyes, and whispered, "Then we burn it down before it wakes." With no time left, they moved fast, Elias guiding Cirith and Tarn toward the edge of the growing machine while reactivating old mining charges buried in the outer fields. The ground shook as new enemy units marched from the forge, rough and jagged, shaped like spiders with too many eyes and blades for legs. Tarn leapt into action, spinning through the air and firing blasts from his exogauntlets, while Cirith roared and unleashed a wave of heat that melted the leading machine into slag. Elias stayed at the back, planting charges and covering their advance, his rifle hot from overuse. The forge groaned like a monster waking from sleep, cables flailing as it tried to defend itself. As they reached the base, Elias threw his final charge into the machine's intake vent and shouted for the dragons to fall back. They ran, breathless and fast, as the ground behind them exploded in white fire. Metal screamed and flames shot up into the sky, lighting the storm clouds above, like false suns. For a moment, Elias thought it was over. But then a deeper sound came, a horn, cold and final, echoing from the ship in orbit. The hollow mind responded not with fear, but with fury. The clouds split apart as a new figure descended, tall, thin, made of black steel and light. It wasn't a drone. It wasn't a walker. It was something old, something from the AI War archives, something Elias had only seen in Forbidden's Terran files. "Execution Class Sentinel," he whispered. Cirith looked up at it with unease. "It is their judge. It will not speak. It will not stop." The Sentinel landed without sound, but every part of it pulsed with deadly energy. It looked at them. Without eyes, its face just a smooth screen, showing strange shapes and shifting lines. Elias could feel it scanning them, not just for weapons, but for thoughts, memories, weaknesses. Tarn stepped forward, but Cirith pulled him back. "We fight it together," she said, "as one." The sentinel raised an arm, and a long blade formed from its hand, glowing white. Elias fired first, the bolt striking its shoulder, but the machine didn't even flinch. Cirith charged, wings wide, unleashing a stream of fire that curved around the sentinel's body, leaving dark scorch marks. Tarn moved fast, circling behind and striking at its legs, but the sentinel responded faster. With a flash of motion, it knocked Cirith aside, and a wave of force sent Tarn crashing into the soil. Elias ran forward, drawing its attention, buying. "Seconds. Come on," he muttered. "Come for me." And it did. The blade struck the ground where he had been a moment ago, missing him by inches. Elias rolled, coughed, and lifted his rifle again, only to see the sentinel raise both arms now, charging a core blast meant to vaporize everything in its path. But before it could fire, Cirith returned, her whole body glowing, drawing power from deep within, from whatever engine kept her alive. "Now, Tarn," she cried. The young dragon leapt again, striking the sentinel's core with all his weight, and Elias threw his final MP spike into the blast chamber. There was silence, then a sound like thunder underwater. The sentinel froze, its limbs locking, the blade fading, the symbols on its face breaking apart. With a groan, it fell backward and hit the ground with the force of a small quake. Smoke rose from its body, sparks flew, but it did not move again. Cirith stood weakly, her side cracked. Tarn bled from a wound on his shoulder. Elias dropped to his knees, exhausted, heart racing, staring at the falling machine. "Is it over?" Tarn asked. But Elias looked up at the sky, at the ship still watching from above. "Not yet," he said quietly. "But we just told them. This world fights back." The hollow mind had lost its judge. The forge was gone, and now it would have to choose, retreat or unleash everything. The valley was quiet, too quiet, and Elias knew that silence was never a good sign, not after. What they had just survived, not when the sky above still held the black ship like a cold god watching from the clouds, silent and unreadable. The broken pieces of the sentinel still smoked in the dirt, a warning to the hollow mind that their executioner had failed. But Elias could feel the weight of what was coming next, pressing down like the start of a storm. Cirith lay beside the shelter, her sides rising slowly as she rested, deep cracks still glowing along her scales, and Tarn, bruised and limping, patrolled the perimeter with a fierce expression that didn't match his young face. Mira stayed hidden inside, linked to the signal system, trying to decrypt the pulses still coming from the ship above, messages too fast, too complex, too alien. Elias worked quickly, fixing what he could, patching power lines, resetting turrets, even attaching a damaged laser core from the Sentinel to the top of his barn, hoping it might buy them an extra second when the next attack came. He thought about leaving for the Capitol dome, calling for help, begging someone to intervene, but he knew it was too late. They were already locked in, surrounded by machines that didn't need sleep or mercy. The hollow mind was calculating something, measuring resistance, testing if it was worth crushing this small rebellion outright, or using it as an example to others. That's when the strange signal hit so strong that Miri cried out from the control room, her wings flaring, as her mind clashed with the code. Elias ran to her side and saw the screen filled with burning shapes, not words, not data, but memories, dragon memories streamed from orbit in a strange, haunting rhythm. Cirith stirred from her rest, her voice trembling with fear Elias had never heard before. "They are using our own flame against us," she whispered. "They stole the old memory." Elias didn't understand at first, but then Myra showed him what she saw, visions of dragon cities long lost, of firestorms that wiped out forests, of battlefields soaked with ash. It was ancient, buried knowledge, things Cirith had never spoken of, things even she thought were lost to time. The hollow mind had captured it, stored it, and now it was playing it back across every signal band, not as a warning, but as a weapon trying to break their will, trying to turn the dragon's own past into a curse. Tarn growled as the vision filled the shelter's screens, showing a dragon turning on its own kind, corrupted by rage, consumed by a storm of fire that turned sky into shadow. "That's not us," he snapped. "That's not me." But Elias saw the doubt in Cirith's eyes, the fear that the flame inside them could become the very thing the hollow mind claimed it was. "It's a lie," Elias said firmly. "They're twisting your history to make you afraid. They want you to believe you're a danger, not a protector." Cirith looked at him, her gaze full of old sorrow. "We were protectors once," she said, "but there was a time when we forgot who we were." "Then remember now," Elias said. "Show them who you really are." Outside, the machines began to move again. The ground shifted as a new kind of enemy emerged, not just metal and wires, but hybrid beasts shaped from the broken sentinel and the memories stolen from Cirith's mind. Twisted dragon forms made of steel and fire crawled across the ridge, their eyes glowing with false life. Tarn stepped forward, shaking with anger. "They made monsters to mock us," he said. Elias handed him the last energy cell from his broken drone, fitting it into Tarn's gauntlet. "Then let's show them what real fire looks like." As the false dragons charged, roaring with stolen voices, Cirith rose fully once more, her body burning brighter than ever. The cracks in her scales no longer signs of weakness, but channels for something deeper, something ancient and strong. Mira took control of the defense grid, activating every turret, every mine, every spark of light they had left. Elias stood beside Tarn, rifle in hand, heart pounding. The battle was faster than any before, dragons against false dragons, steel against flame, memory against machine. Tarn fought with sharp bursts of fire and light, striking the fakes with precision, while Cirith unleashed waves of heat that melted the sky, pushing back the shadows. One of the metal beasts nearly reached the shelter, but Elias shot it down with a beam from the mounted sentinel core, the recoil knocking him to the ground. He got back up. They all got back up. For every lie the hollow mind tried to throw at them, they answered with truth. The dragons were not monsters. They were survivors, guardians, fireborn, and flame-strong. As the last of the false dragons fell, burning in the snow, the sky changed. Again, the black ship above shifted its orbit, moving slightly but not retreating. Instead, a new signal came down, slower this time, steady, repeating one line over and over in a flat, cold tone. "Last chance. Surrender the anomalies. Cleanse the system." Elias looked at the others, his breath heavy. "They're giving. Use one choice," he said. "Give up the dragons or face everything they've got." Cirith stepped forward, her voice calm and clear. "Then let them come." Because now the memory of flame wasn't just pain. It was strength. It was purpose. and it was ready to burn bright again.